Hello, it's Friday, 12 noon at WCOM-LP 103.5 FM, Chapel Hill and Carborough. This is Chamber Chatter. Welcome to Chamber Chatter, the monthly roundtable discussion with local business leaders. Today, my guests are Rachel Morris, the Executive Director of the Rolesville Chamber, and Leo Williams, board member of the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce. Thank you very much for being on my show today and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Rick.
Thanks for having me.
That's great. That's great. Let's take a little introductory spin around the table. Why don't we start with you, Rachel? Can you tell me about yourself, your time at the Rolesville Chamber, and anything else you'd like to share with us?
You know, that's always a tricky question when it's your opportunity to talk about yourself. I am Rachel Morris. I'm a native of Virginia. I have been in North Carolina since college days. I actually came here and attended St. Augustine's University, now it's called. I was a basketball player, so I was on a basketball scholarship. And I came here, majored in computer science, and after graduating, spent some time at UNC Chapel Hill in their IT department, management department, a couple of other places, and then moved on to a couple of other nonprofits. And then I've been at the chamber world for about 4 years now. So it's been fun times, I will say.
That's great. That's great. How big is the board size in Rolesville?
Our board size is 8.
8. Okay. And I would ask you about the membership, but that's going to ruin a later conversation I want to have with you. So we'll just hold that to the side for right now. Good afternoon, Leo. Please tell me about yourself and the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce.
Well, thanks for having me, Rick. I'm Leonardo Williams. Well, as you say, most people call me Leo. I am a new board member for the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce, and it's been quite the experience thus far. But yeah, my background is education. I'm a former Durham Public Schools Teacher of the Year, turned principal, turned associate superintendent, turned government and education consultant, turned restaurateur. So I took a weird spin there, but I still get to do the community service. But yeah, I represent one of those small business owners in Durham, in which our chamber is being very intentional about reaching and supporting and bringing us to the table to be a part of the larger conversations. And I will talk a bit later on how this project or this experience has panned out. But yeah, that's my background. I have a restaurant called ZWELIS Kitchen in Durham, and I'm so far enjoying my experience with the Durham Chamber. It's definitely brought me to the table of many conversations that I'm looking forward to talking about a little later.
All right, I'm looking forward to that. But there is one question I got to ask you. We had Ann Welton from the she's president of the Wake Forest Chamber of Commerce, and that was our last episode. And the episode before that we had Kate Davis from Fuquay Varina. Now, those two chambers, let me make sure I got the numbers right. 625 for Wake Forest, 370 members for Fuquay. And both of them mentioned how challenging it is to have a chamber of that size. Well, you know what my next question is. Durham has a chamber of over 800 people. How do you possibly manage? How do you get the word out? How do you know what, if you have one of your best meetings and you're giving out free ice cream and candy and 400 people, only half the amount say they're going to show up, where do you put them? Do you rent out Wallace Wade Stadium or something?
Well, as of late, the Sheraton Imperial at RTP has been our best friend over the years, actually. When we have our annual meeting, we usually have about 1,000 people or more. So it is a lot to manage, but we have an amazing staff as well. And we're very intentional about, membership engagement, just in-person meetups. We're so glad to be back in person, safely, of course, after the pandemic. But yeah, I mean, we have our share of informal time as well as formal. We have our standing meetings, but we also grab a beer sometimes together. So we have often times we get together to connect with one another.
And what's the size of that amazing staff?
So actually, the amazing staff is fairly a small staff. We have about 6 people. Yeah, 6 folks.
Oh, so Leo, you don't know small. You have no idea what small is.
Small but mighty, and it comes
Look,
with documentation later on in our show. You
You
watch and
have
see.
no idea what small is.
Well, 6 people, 800. Oh, there's what 125 a person. That's chump change, right? No problem. All right, so let's move on to segment 1. And I want to make sure that I get all the permit process down here, because I want to lay out a scenario for you, because it's been very noticeable and welcomed to see the guests on our most recent 2 or 3 shows talking about how they are dealing with their chamber members looking forward, as opposed to it being in survival mode, which is what it was for the year before that. It's amazing how they don't have to reach out to their members. The members were knocking their door saying, please help us. But now we're looking forward as COVID gets more and more into the rearview mirror. So now if you look at this scene behind me, this is South Salem. This is where all the restaurants and everything are. And you see those cars parked on South Salem Street. Well, they don't park there anymore. They made the municipality, working with all the small businesses, have changed that to outdoor seating, excuse me. And that was, when you had the 25%, 50% mandate that, oh my God, we can't put anybody in here. We can only put 25 inside. We have no outdoor seating. So the municipality of Apex stood up and said, okay, we're going to help you. Same thing happened with rooftop dining. I went out to Clayton and spoke with Dana Wooten she's the president of the Clayton Chamber of Commerce. And there's a restaurant out there, Manning's. There's a roof out there. Used to just be tar, protected from the elements. Now there's stairs, and they doubled their seating capacity. And this is all streamlined process between the town and the small business. So you don't have that 6 months of once a month meetings. You don't have the proposals, the non-precedent setting citations that you have to come up with, Oppo research, the economic development input. And then 2 years later, the council will vote on it and they may even turn you down. Right now, they said, you know what? Small business needs this and we want to help them out. Let's get this done. And lo and behold, in a month and a half, you had outdoor seating. So my question, I'm coming to you with this, Leo. Let's talk Bull City. You are the perfect person for this question, because as a chamber board member and as a small business owner, you can peek over both sides of that fence. So I have a 2-sided question. As a small business owner, has it been bouncing back, and do you feel confident going forward? And as a chamber board member, has the city of Durham been there for you? Been there for the small businesses, I should say.
Great questions. And yes, however, in Durham, we are a really good example of from the bottom up. When the pandemic came, no one, and literally no one, government, institution or not, knew how to deal with society stopping, However, myself, along with a few other colleagues, we created the Bull City Recovery and Sustainability Plan. We presented that to the actual council, city council. They modified it and adopted it, and we were able to inject $3 million into the local economy to stop the closure of small businesses. Now, part of continuing that experience of ensuring that small businesses were going to sustain, now that we're on the back end of, let's say we're almost to the end of this pandemic, we also did what's called the Durham Streetery with the Downtown Durham Incorporated. We turned outdoor seating into, temporary reality, and now we're fighting to keep it for the downtown corridor. But also, business is booming back. So we are now like, all right, what are the effects of the pandemic? It's labor, higher wages. So the chamber is now taking part in just monitoring and assessing and seeing how they could also support, our members, ensuring that, we also are at least vocalizing what it is that we need, and the chamber can, generate those resources. So I will say that business is back, the city council is supportive, and the chamber is building those relationships where necessary. And that's where we are right now.
That's great. That's great. And like I said, it's kind of a silver lining to a very ugly, whatever it is that you're lining, but at least hopefully we can carry on with this type of, I want to say lack of red tape, that you can, like I said before, so you can streamline to get things done instead of it just being hung up and, commissioned for whenever.
I may add, Rick, just briefly, our council does, our chamber does an amazing job at facilitating conversations amongst parties that, just normally may not talk as much. And I think that's the key vital role that's being played right now.
Absolutely. As a matter of fact, our tagline, which I sign off with every week, is that it's your chamber, utilize it. And everybody just needs to know that it's there. A lot of people just aren't aware. The people, it's kind of redundant. The people who know what the chamber can do for you are the people who are already members of it, because they get the weekly email blast. But it's the people outside that if you just went down to a chamber meeting and saw what they have to offer, it's not your chamber of the 1950s. It's a business partner that you need these days, quite honestly. I was also, I want to make sure I get this right. 2021 year to date, which is probably a month and a half ago, your chamber assisted in capital investments of $544 million, over $500 million, with over 3,000 new jobs. Those are some pretty good facts, some pretty good numbers. So congratulations, keep it up. Rachel, Rolesville is a different animal.
We are.
Yes, mid-year 2020, Rolesville wasn't even in the top 25 of chambers. And let me just share this one little. Now you're number 23.
Wow.
So now you're number 23 with 175. Again, this was, I think this number is maybe 2 or 3 weeks old, but I'm assuming you're fairly close.
Yes.
So you're not in the top 25 two years ago. Now you're number 23. My question to you is a little bit different. To expand the chamber and Main Street, USA, you need businesses. To get more businesses, you need more rooftops. Well, the developers seem to be delivering the rooftops to you. I think you have The Point, which is like over 800 houses, if I'm not mistaken, well, 800 units. And Walbrook, which is a nice mixed use facility, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes.
Then you also have 540, the green belt, the green corridor belt on 540, which is going to be the last one completed. But once it is completed, you will have access to all of the Southwest Wake County. So I'm talking coming from Apex, Holly Springs, Fuquay, Garner, all at your doorstep. Are you ready for that influx of people? Are you ready for, and let me tell you, it's 125% that Rolesville has improved and has grown in the last 9 years. Are you ready for the next 125% in the next 9 years?
We are. And we have, I think from the numbers that you mentioned, as I mentioned in my intro, I've been here for 4 years. And so in those 4 years, it was I'm a Rolesville resident. And so it's knowing how to market to myself, because I was that person in this bedroom community who worked in Cary. I used to work in Cary, used to work in Chapel Hill. So I traveled a lot. So I knew what it was like to come home. I slept, left, went to work, and pretty much did everything outside of the area. So one of the things we looked at doing was, how do we market to people like me? It was changing our approach. And I always tell people, sometimes you don't quite get what I'm doing or understand what I'm doing, but if you trust me and trust the process, you'll see the results of it. And that's kind of what we've been doing. And so even when we look at our commercial, I don't know if you mentioned Cobblestone, but Cobblestone is going to be the sister Lafayette Village property, which is coming to Rolesville. And so that also is coming to our main street. So starting next year or so, the fall of this year, we're going to start groundbreaking on a lot of stuff. Going into next year, we will do our main street expansion and start pretty much changing the face of Rolesville. So truly having a defined downtown area, truly having defined downtown streets with sidewalks, make it walkable. If you come to Rolesville now, you will see people out and about. I mean, walking, riding their bikes. We have a lot of Greenway trails that connect to other towns around us. And so what the town and what the chamber have done is, in our partnership, we make sure that as we look at all of this development, all of this expansion, all of these people, that we put the proper infrastructure in place to be able to accommodate it, even to now having fiber. So Roseville now has fiber in Roseville, which we did not have before. You either had the choice of one provider or maybe two. And so now having that high-speed fiber internet connection is just totally changing it for us. It's helping us recruit businesses, which is always a big thing. So those rooftops are huge, because I think everybody on here knows, you got to have the rooftops to attract some bigger businesses and to attract some other people into the area. And now that we're getting those, we actually have an RFP out now. I think that was maybe just posted by the town. We're looking at another corridor, potentially something, commercial corridor for different businesses of different opportunities that's available now. So we're moving in that direction. So I always tell people, you used to hear, especially for a small town like Roseville, you would always hear, oh, in a couple of years, we're not going to look the same. Well, this time we're truly, as the young people say, walk it like you talk it. So we're getting there. We're truly getting there.
I'll tell you, you used the word small town a couple of times. You better use it as much as possible now, because you may not in a few years be able to use it anymore. But I'm sure it's going, the vibrancy and the small town charm and everything else. The good thing is that when municipalities and the building and the economic development, if they keep their eye on staying that good small town charm, then, there's just not enough that can be said about that. It's very key. The next segment is called Day Tripper. So I'm going to take you up on that.
Okay.
Let's say me and my family, we want to take a trip to Rolesville, and we are game for anything. So now we love the small town charm, but we want to fill our day up for whatever you have in the morning I put the kids to bed at 10 o'clock at night.
Okay.
So all yours. Give me the agenda.
It's funny when you think of Roseville. We've had a couple people come here, and there are quite a few things that you can do in Roseville. People don't know that. But if you come in the morning, we have this great business called Black and White Coffee. A lot of people will know it from its logo. And I will tell you, one of the owners, Lim, is phenomenal. He has won barista competitions. I see Leo over there nodding, because Lim is phenomenal. I mean, truly phenomenal. And the other thing too that I love about Lim, when the pandemic first hit, and of course you mentioned earlier about a lot of our businesses having to close, one of the things that they were able to do, because they have the roaster, was their online sales of their actual coffee, they moved their in-house restaurant staff into their roaster. So that way they were able to still keep working, be able to fulfill their orders of their online, the sales increased ridiculously. That was huge for them. But they're not just coffee. They have amazing food. So if you go there, not only can you get, if you want a latte, hot chocolate, coffee or tea, you can get a great sandwich, breakfast sandwich if you want, or something of that nature. So there are options for that. And then after you've left Black and White Coffee, because of course, I've told you we're walkable, great small town charm, we have a museum. And a lot of people don't know that. It's called Little House Museum. The one thing that's interesting about the Little House Museum is you can find out a lot about Rolesville history. That's everything from the foundation of us is actually our churches. That's kind of the history of how Rolesville was created, how we expanded. You learn about the families. You also have, which sometimes you don't necessarily, there's the house itself, which is the museum, but then there's also another shed in the back, or another place. And that's where the actual slaves slept. That's where they cooked the food. That's where they did everything. And we have that here in Roseville. You can come, you can look at everything, tour, see a bunch of stuff. The house is set up for different eras and periods and things like that. So that's an option for you too, if you come here. Depending on how adventurous your family is. You can decide whether you want to eat lunch before this or after this, but we have a place called Fantasy Lake Scuba Park, which is now called Fantasy Lake Adventure Park. Now, this is like over 100 acres. If you're not used to seeing something like this, you may freak out a little bit. It's a crystal lake. It is over 70 acres. But the cool part about this is if you are a scuba diver, if you want to swim, be in the water, things like that, they have like cars that they've kind of put in the bottom of the lake. So it's an adventure in the lake. So you can pick like
they purposely got put in the bottom of the lake.
Yes, purposely got put in the bottom.
Okay.
So you can go scuba diving or whatever, and you can see all the different adventures and things out there. And you can, if you want to, you can grill and some other things out there at Fantasy Lake now Adventure Park. And then if you decide you don't want to do that, we have options. So that good Southern food is we have a place called Off the Hook Seafood. They are family owned. They are local. You're going to meet somebody in the family when you go in there. They are like award winning in this area, great environment. It's kind of one of those things when you go in there, there are a lot of regulars. So be prepared to talk to someone in there when you come in there. If you're not in the mood for seafood, we also have a place called Rosalini's. The thing I love about Rosalini's is it's owned by a veteran. And so Greg actually was in the military. He was a chef. And so he decided to open this business. But the key part about his business is if you have gluten-free, if you need like special dietary restrictions, his pizza is high quality and will definitely give you that. He can do, if you tell him anything that you need, if you need a breakfast pizza, don't tell everybody, but he actually can make that for you too. And a lot of people don't know that about that, but that's that small town charm thing that I always like to say you can do. And so after you've eaten and done all of that, I mentioned here, we're really big on Greenway. So if you look at our logo, you're going to see a bike in our logo. We just redid our branding logo and everything for Rolesville. That's because we have so many Greenway trails. And so Rolesville used to be a mill town. We had a mill factory. So we have Mill Rich Nature Park. So if you go down in the park, it has an amphitheater, about 200 seats. That's where we have concerts and other different things. But also, as you walk throughout the trail, you're going to see old parts of the mill as you go throughout this trail. And it will connect you easily to other towns. And as you walk through, you can bike it, you can walk it, whatever your choice is, you have many options of what you want to do. And now you mentioned that you have your kids with you. So once you're done with all of this and you've walked, done whatever, we have a place here called Greenway Beer and Wine. They have another location, but it's owned by two great women, Annette and Molly. The pandemic, they expanded like crazy. When I say expanded, they expanded like crazy. It gave them the opportunity to change some things, to go in and clean it up and do a bunch of things. But they have different bands there that perform and play. But when you hear beer and wine, you don't think this is family friendly. Well, there's a mom's group that actually meets there with strollers, babies in the strollers, everything. They have cornhole in the back. They have big Jenga, the big Jenga that you play. You can do that. There's also, Rolesville is known for its granite. And so there's a big granite rock that is in the back of it that a lot of kids love to play and slide on. Not to say you can or you will, but just know it's there. And it's always an attraction for them. But they also added in gastro food truck. So as you're there, if you decide as parents you want to partake in your beer and wine or your spirits, whatever it may be, then you can also get you some food. Kids can eat from the food truck. You can eat from the food truck, and you can enjoy nice music or great neighbors while you're there. And that truly is like a full day in Roseville. Now, if you come during Christmas, I will tell you, our Christmas parade has been one that has grown crazy. We actually kick it off at noon with Christmas caroling, kids games, blow ups, a food truck kind of rodeo for the families. We have vendors out, face painting, everything. So you come out from 12 to 2, you eat, have a good time with your family, drink hot chocolate, all that other wonderful stuff, and then get your spot, because you always got to stake your spot for the parade. And then at 2 o'clock, our parade kicks off. And then I will tell you, with our parade, you can imagine what we have in the parade. I mean, you always have your Santa, but we have the horses. We have a lot of community groups, a lot of dance groups. We are truly small town feel. That is really what we package and sell. Regardless of how big we get, we keep that small town feel. That's what we package and sell to you. And if you're looking for great Christmas gifts, we have a place here called Local Charm. Jen is phenomenal, and coming up, you can get anything in there. You can get a gift for your wife, for your husband. You can get gifts for your kids, grandma, mom. You can get Christmas ornaments. You can get house decor, anything. She even makes some things too. So there are many options if you come to Rolesville. And all of this is kind of central downtown outside of the scuba park. As you can imagine, with 100 acres, that's the only thing that's not located right here in the center of town.
Wow. I'm exhausted just from listening to it. I can imagine going through that schedule. That is sensational. I want to thank you very much, Rachel. That is sensational. All right, we're going to take a quick break. And when we return, when we come back, it's going to be New Biz on the Block. That's where we ask the roundtable about new members in their chamber. This is Rick Walsh. You are listening to Chamber Chatter on WCOM LP 103.5, Chapel Hill and Carborough. Welcome back to Chamber Chatter on WCOMLP 103.5, Chapel Hill and Carborough. Chamber Chatter is a monthly roundtable with North Carolina's business leaders. This program is underwritten by NC Chamber Maps, our map for your local business. Let me reintroduce our two guests today. We have Rachel Morris, Executive Director of the Rolesville Chamber, and Leonardo, affectionately known as Leo Williams, Board Member of the Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce. All right, so this is called New Kid on the Block. I'd like to lead in with some pithy little New Kid song, but I don't know any. So we're going to start with you, Leo. What kind of new businesses has Durham been attracting recently? And feel free to give them a plug. That's what we're here for.
Absolutely. So I first of all, I'm extremely biased in my city. We are so let me just sort of give you the platform of Durham. We are a place that appreciates cultural diversity. We are a place that honors and acknowledge and appreciate our historical context. So we have the Durham History Museum right downtown. But some of the new businesses that we're bringing into town that we're recruiting now are in two scales, locally as well as large corporations. As you know, part of RTP is right in Durham County. And we have jobs that are bringing thousands of people here. There was a major jobs, Google right in Durham, Google Cloud. Obviously, Apple is coming to the Triangle. Grail, which is a cancer detection company, amongst many others. However, we are being really innovative internally as well. So you're starting to see a lot of expansion from local businesses that are already there. My wife and I, our company, our restaurant, ZWELIS Kitchen is one of them. We're about to make a major announcement about expanding to 2 additional restaurants in Durham. You have Beyu Cafe, which now has, I believe, 5 locations. You know, we have a Goorsha Ethiopian restaurant that now has Gojo, which is a hookah bar by night and coffee shop by day, right on the same premises. However, you have American Tobacco Campus, which is being very intentional about bringing locally owned brands there on campus. Then you have startups that are like just popping up everywhere. You know, we're looking at some venture funds in Durham that are bringing, or at least giving opportunities to ideas, and those are becoming startups. So we're developing our own pipeline of talent right here in the Bull City, and it's working. It's working significantly. And, you know, the housing market and the real estate market right now in Durham is, I mean, it's getting national attention. Mm-hmm. So it's important that we take care of home first. And that's why you're seeing so many new concepts of the same owners right in Durham.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you very much. Rachel, who are some of the members that have catapulted Rolesville into 23rd place?
That could be a number of people. We have SuzAnna Antiques, which is, I mean, loved, I mean, across many places. She has been, I will say, Jenny and Susan have been phenomenal as far as being in the community, bringing a variety of options, definitely shopping options to Rolesville. We also have Cartoon Jordan. So she does caricatures, which is really neat. She actually did something, she actually kind of, believe it or not, had a boom in the middle of the pandemic. Companies like Google were using her. Companies based out of Canada were using her because we were on Zooms. So they will actually bring her onto the Zoom and people wouldn't know it. She would just have the name, like she will have Rick Walsh as a name. And while she's on the Zoom, she's drawing everyone on her iPad. And so once they're done, they will like show it and use it as a team building opportunity and things like that. So that was pretty cool too. We actually have our first law office on Main Street now, which is the law office of Michael Paul. Believe it or not, we had lawyers here, but did not have an actual office here in Rolesville. So we're definitely excited about that. So our growth, we're growing in the right types of businesses that kind of gives us kind of that diverse population, as I like to say. And then always, believe it or not, our biggest employer is Granite Falls Swim and Athletic Club. A lot of people ask me like, how is that even possible? But it's a big athletic club and they have everything from the summer employees to the part-time employees. They expanded with what they were offering. So that's a cool place too, if you're ever in Rolesville, to take a look at, because they have a phenomenal wading pool and other things that happen there. So those are some of the businesses that have truly helped us kind of grow. Medical wise, we have a new physical therapist here, Rolesville Physical Therapy. Which kind of goes straight with the name, with the location. But those are some of the things. And believe it or not, I know Leo's in Durham, but we actually have a co-working space now in Roseville. Really? Rise Co-working, co-working and community events. Her space, that business is actually owned by Michelle Medley, and she was a participant in Launch Roseville. And Leo, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the launch programs, but she was in our first class and she came to Launch Roseville with a concept. And that program and the people in the program actually, we kind of work with her, helped her find space and everything. So we have that here in town. It's an event space. We don't have much event space here. We don't have a Sheraton Imperial where we can go and have things like that. So that has been a huge benefit for us. But those are some of the businesses, because Arise Co-working, Rick, actually, the way she's set up, she's able to bring more businesses in. So we have a lot of new business that have actually been created, and they're actually working in that co-working space that also has helped us when you look at those numbers increase.
Going back to that, was it the swimming athletic club? What was that?
Granite Falls.
Is everything indoors, or it sounds like such a huge place that, do they have any outdoor activities that go along with that?
They are outdoors. And so when you sometimes people pull it up on Google Maps, but they have a huge pool in the back, which of course is broken out of different sections. You have like your smaller kids section, and then you have kind of the bigger pool for the older kids and the adults. And then also the wading pool, which kind of floats around. You can sit in there. And then if you decide you want to go in the gym, you can go in the gym and work out on any equipment. But they also have an Olympic-sized swimming pool, which is where they have quite a few swim teams, including the Rolesville High School swim team, actually holds their meets there. So it's a very large facility, great facility. And they offer swim lessons too, which is really huge. I will tell you, when I found out about Granite Falls, it was actually not in the chamber. It was in my previous job. We were working on a partnership with USA Swimming, and we were trying to develop a partnership to teach kids how to swim. And it was minority kids that were our focus. And so as we were working on this partnership, they said, Rachel, we want to test out, because we have facilities that are part of our program that say, they do this. So it was kind of like that secret shopper type thing. And so sure enough, I took my kids there. Everything worked out, but that is actually how I found out about Granite Falls, was through that program, was to take my kids there to get swim lessons.
I probably should take swim lessons, because I sink like a rock. I am the worst swimmer ever. So, all right. So it's, thank you very much, Rachel. I really appreciate that. It's time for our day trip or two segment. Now, I grew up a big baseball fan, so I'm not giving you, Leo, the easy layup of sending me to a Bull Durham game. Okay, we'll consider that a given that I'm going to the game, but you need to fill up my day before it and after it. So it's all yours.
I am so excited to do this. All right. Uh, so coming to Durham, I did mention the Durham History Museum. Durham is a very historic city. So as you're headed to the Durham History Museum to start your day out, stop by Beyu Coffee, and you can get some coffee with soul, or you can get coffee from Goorsha, which is Ethiopian coffee. Really nice, quaint space, really good for solo, but you'll probably have the family. Now, if your kids need to study, you can go to Foster Street, which is a really cool spot for studying. But BU is kind of really the meeting spot in town. It's right in the heart of downtown. After they do have amazing food, but I would probably send you to Guglhupl. Guglhupl is it's a Dutch-based bakery, but they have amazing food out on University 15501. I would say go there for breakfast. Once you're there, before it gets too hot outside, I would suggest that you go over to Duke Gardens, which for years have been rated the #9 most beautiful place in the country. And then while you're over there, you might as well go to the Duke Lemur Center. And when you leave there, it's probably time for lunch. So I'm going to suggest that you go to the very first Zimbabwean restaurant in the United States. This place is absolutely amazing. Joe Biden loves this place. All the politicians love it. It's the spot they go to. They are, like I said, the first Zimbabwean restaurant. And it just happens to be owned by me and my wife.
Oh, okay. I was going to say
Yeah.
what's the name of it,
Yeah,
but I'm pretty confident you know it.
Yeah, it's called ZWELIS Kitchen
Okay.
out on 15501. Once you leave there, you can go get your lunch. I would suggest that you maybe go to the Museum of Life and Science and leave there and stop by the National Museum at Duke, and then head over to NCCU. They have an amazing art exhibit there. And then after you finish that, that's going to take a while, right? It's lots of driving because we're a sizable city. I would head back downtown. Once you get downtown, there are, I would suggest that you probably grab an early dinner. And you can probably get dinner from, let's say, Nana Steak, since you're planning to go to a baseball game that night. But since you already know baseball, you could actually go to one of the nation's top venues for live shows, which is the DPAC, the Durham Performing Arts Center. And we have that to offer. If it's crowded, if it's sold out, you can go to the Carolina Theater, which is next to our Arts Council, which is an advocacy organization that has actual exhibits there from local artists. You can also go over to the Golden Belt area where you'll see a lot of local art as well. Now, anytime you want a snack or you're hungry, just close your eyes, spin around, and open your eyes. You're going to get some of the world's most eclectic flavors. So anywhere downtown, M restaurants, M sushi, M tempura, M pocha. You can go to Cucciolo, which is an authentic Italian restaurant by this guy named Jim. His brother inspired him to open this. He and his brother are from Seoul, Korea. And there's a small segment in Seoul, Korea where they focus on authentic Italian cuisine. And Jim opened one in Durham, which is rated one of the top restaurants in the Triangle. So we share that. So a lot of the best stores are right in Durham. So let's say you're finished with your show, you want to grab a drink. You have the option of the rooftop bar at Unscripted. You can go to the Durham Hotel rooftop bar for dinner and drinks. You can go to 21C, which is just one of the most unique and thought-provoking museum hotels in the country. Leave there and walk back outside, look around, go to the parlor, get some ice cream, go back into your hotel and just stay the night. Spend more money in our city. That's what we want.
All right. You piqued my curiosity. 21C, thought-provoking. What exactly did you mean by that?
Put the kids to bed, and then you can go inside and just admire the art that much of it is by the owner of the hotel. but also featured artists from around the world. But it's thought-provoking because it's not necessarily always the most appropriate for children.
Understood. Okay. Okay. We'll go PG-13, maybe borderline R. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Leo.
Yep.
Okay. So we're going to be back in a couple of seconds. This is Chamber Chatter, WCOMLP 103.5 FM out of Chapel Hill and Carborough. I'm Rick Walsh. And in our last segment, we're going to have Ask the Leader. So Rachel, get your questions prepared for Leo, and Leo, you do the same for Rachel. We'll be back in a couple of seconds. Welcome back to Chamber Chatter on WCOMLP 103.5. Chamber Chatter is a monthly roundtable discussion with North Carolina's business leaders. I'm your host, Rick Walsh, and today's guests are Rachel Morris, Executive Director of the Rolesville Chamber, and Leo Williams, the board member of Greater Durham Chamber, And this is underwritten by NC Chamber Maps, our map for your local business. Well, this is the easy part for me. This is the third segment of which we call Ask a Leader. So we open up the microphone, or should I say, I give Rachel my microphone to ask Leo Williams anything and everything about that behemoth 800 member strong Greater Durham Chamber of Commerce. All yours, Rachel.
Thank you so much, Rick. Leo, I was trying to figure out which question to ask you. And this question is more fitting for kind of where we are right now with businesses that are struggling to actually fulfill or make adjustments because of the lack of staff. So how has is the chamber doing anything or working with businesses that are currently experiencing that staff shortage?
Yes, absolutely. So the Durham Chamber of Commerce has a really close relationship with Discover Durham, which is our visitors bureau, and facilitating the conversations between the visitors bureau and the city council and the county commissioners. One of the outcomes of those relationships are the visitors bureau is actually hosting a hospitality and tourism job fair to support the local businesses, small and of any size actually, in the area on July 14th, I believe, July 13th, mid-July at some point. I can't remember the date right offhand right now, but yeah, so we're having this major job fair that's happening really soon. And also just in regards of the staff at our chamber being really accessible and available to help us connect to other entities that may just be able to better enhance what we're trying to do. And I know that sounds a bit vague, but for example, I may need to do a training with my staff out of the restaurant. So we want to have a conference room at the Comfort Inn, which is not far from our restaurant. The chamber can facilitate that relationship for me. We're both members, and we could actually work something out to where we can train the staff to better be more efficient in-house, giving them a change of scenery.
And then one last question for me is, as we all know, Roseville is the boom town. We're growing. What piece of advice would you have for our chamber as we are growing?
That is a great question, because that applies to almost every small town that's around these major metropolises right now. I would really communicate. I think it's all about communication, and you're going to have to communicate through your small businesses to your community, your residents, that the small town feel is, you're going to have to cherish it, but it's going to start having more people in it. And what's going to happen over the next 10 years is that small town may not be so small anymore. So, folks are leaving, folks are trying to move to where we are and they can't find housing. So they're going to come out to where you are. And the simple way of life, which is like where I grew up in Halifax County, it's going to change. It's just the inevitable. So how do you prepare for that? And so I would suggest more conversations right now. And as a small town, from the business perspective, I would, just have everyone just harness up and get ready for the influx of people. People are going to come, people are going to live, they're going to spend more, and you're going to grow because that's inevitable. So the more doors you have, the more businesses are going to come, and just, communication. Yep.
Yeah, that brings us back to what we were talking about before, the last 9 years, Rolesville being up 125%. And this isn't even with the infrastructure yet. This isn't with Route 540 being completely, completely accessible from, like I said, the southwest corner of Wake County. And then all these rooftops, like we were talking about, it's just this convergence of everything at the same time. It's just like, buckle up, here comes the influx of people. Good point. Good point. Thank you for those questions, Rachel. And thank you for that input, Leo. We're going to switch the microphone to in front of you, Leo. And what questions do you have for Rachel?
Just to finalize that last thought, take a look at Saxonville Hall, Rachel. That's the town that was really, really small, just a community, and now it's booming. So my question for you is sort of the same. It's similar to the one you just recently asked me. What is the chamber doing to prepare for the influx of residents that is coming? You guys have a lot of land there. You have a town that has the capacity for growth. What are you all doing to not only capitalize on your momentum, the current businesses you have, but the momentum that's coming for your businesses?
So we're taking advantage of the size that we are right now. When we look at capitalizing off of our businesses, believe it or not, we're kicking off a welcome wagon. You don't hear that too often anymore. Mm-hmm. And so there has been a huge push. We've done a huge push from the chamber and the chamber members to do a welcome wagon. And in the coordination of this effort, my police chief, Chief Simmons, actually is going to provide me with an officer that is going to go out with the chamber when we're delivering welcome to Rolesville packages to new residents. And in those packages, we're going to have different items. I mean, we're not just talking about your regular, everyday coupon or discount or anything like that. We're talking about really nice welcome to Rolesville gifts. Some of them actually say welcome to Rolesville. So the police chief and I talked about it. And one of the things that we're looking at doing, especially as you have new residents move in and you have your community, we're trying to do that community policing too, and kind of humanizing the badge and doing all of that at one time. So that way, if we kind of introduce them to law enforcement right off the back, it just gives us an opportunity to truly keep that small town feel. I mean, how many people can say, I moved into a town and the Chamber of Commerce and their community, one of the police officers showed up with a welcome gift for me. So you don't hear that too often. And so that's what we're doing to help put our businesses in front of the new residents. And then also, as we're doing this for the residents who are already here, they see that extra effort that we're actually making to make sure that we do keep that small town feel. Now, is this something as we're booming and growing, we will keep up? We don't know, but I believe that if you set a solid foundation from the beginning, that as you grow and expand, you can just start building on that foundation. So that's part of the goal of this.
That sounds great. That sounds great.
Thank you so much. That's awesome.
Well, we still have a few minutes here, so I'd like to give both of you an opportunity to tell us. I know when you're in charge of the chamber, there's very, very little me time, but what little me time that you do have, I'd like to know what each of you do. What's your hobbies? What do you do outside the chamber? Why don't we go right back to you, Leo?
Yeah, so what makes me tick is a community engagement. We had a situation in Durham, North Carolina, where the McDougal Terrace community, which is a public housing community, had to totally evacuate. We're talking well over 600 people. My wife and I opened our kitchen up with 450 volunteers, a collection of 24,000 donated items, raising $30,000 nearly, and serving 49,672 meals. That is the type of work that we do outside of just the everyday, day-to-day work of running the restaurant. as well as I have no idea how I'm doing this, but I'm officially running for office.
Good
I'm
luck.
running for city council in
Mhm.
Durham, and but it was a necessity. So now I'm out and about in the community. I'm talking to folks. I'm listening to folks, and I'm bringing that small business perspective. We don't have any small business representation on our council currently, and so hopefully what I'll be able to do is just really humanize small business, humanize business, and talk about how it relates to the everyday citizen. So yeah, I run my restaurant, you know, and do community service and mentor young Black boys, and now running for office.
Was it the aforementioned situations that you were talking about with the 600 family or 600 people getting, you know, losing their residence and you having to open up your restaurant? Is that situation, was that the precipice to you deciding to run for town council?
It was the initial thing. It really woke my eyes up. I opened my eyes and said, wait a minute, how did this happen and how is it a surprise? You know, so that was the first situation. The second was the pandemic came, and our city was not necessarily in a position, like any other city, was really in a good position to support small businesses. We stopped the collection of residential taxes, but commercial taxes, sales tax continued. So you know, it was just logic. It's like, hey, you have to save what's keeping the city alive right now.
Mhm.
And you know, there were some tough conversations had. I'll put it that way. And we had to activate. So surviving COVID in Durham was the ultimate public-private partnership, and that just sealed the deal for me. You know, I needed to be able to speak a language that wasn't on the council yet.
That almost brings us back to our first segment when I was talking about, you know, the dedicated area for parking that needed to be used for outdoor dining, and how all of a sudden the process gets streamlined because of necessity, because of the situation, right, because of the environment. So I see some similarities there. That's great. Thank you for sharing that with us, Leo.
Absolutely.
All right. So what does Rachel Morris do for Rachel Morris?
Rachel's a small business owner. So outside of the chamber, I am pushing my business and kind of expanding my business. I just added being an actual certified loan signing agent or notary signing agent to my business this year, kind of as a result of the pandemic. And so I have been busy doing that outside of chamber work because, as we say, the housing market and everything else is booming. And believe it or not, there's a huge demand for loan signing agents. And a lot of companies are looking for loan signing agents that they can trust and rely on and who produce good work. And so I am kind of moving myself into that category of being someone who's trustable and reliable and all that other wonderful good stuff. So that has kept me busy.
Oh, I'm sure it has.
Outside of the chamber.
And if they get a minute to look at this video and this program, they'll know exactly how trustworthy and good you are. So when you say a loan signing, you added loan signing to your, you know, repertoire, so to speak. What was the base business? Was it like a CPA or something?
So my base business is management consulting. And
Okay.
so the Chamber of Commerce, as you mentioned earlier, was not listed on things. So what I do for businesses, I love startup businesses. What I do for businesses is what I do for the chamber. It's kind of my test subject of testing out things. I mentioned earlier, my background was computer science. So I love utilizing technology, but I love utilizing it in a way that any person can use it. So I don't bring you something difficult to use. I try to find programs and different things to make it work for you. And then also find software that's budget friendly too, for different businesses. So that's kind of how I've been able to expand the chamber and how we've been able to actually change our brand. Because that's huge for me. Branding is really, really big for me.
Absolutely.
And so we've been able to change our brand.
So let's not be shy. Let's put a plug in there. What's the name of the company?
It's White and Morris Enterprises.
There we go. There we go. Just want to make sure. All right. That's great. That's great. What a great program. I want to thank my two guests today. They really stepped up to the plate because we were one person short, and we filled this whole hour with magnificent, informative, great information for these people. I would also like to thank our engineer, Dan Cox. He's the one who makes it all happen, quite honestly. WCOM station manager, Donald Brumfield. And please look for the Chamber Chatter links that you'll see throughout the last hour. It will give you the links to go to any of the merchants that I mentioned, any of the articles, any of the information we covered here. Please check the links and we'll give you the direct link to the URL. And remember, the Chamber is your friend. Join it and utilize it. You have been listening to WCOM LP 103.5, Chapel Hill and Cobblestone. I am Rick Walsh. Have yourself a great weekend.